Have you ever cracked open a can of soup, beans, or tuna and thought, wow, this is basically science in a tin? Well, it is. Canned food is one of those inventions that changed how the world eats, making it possible to have peaches in December, beef stew in a storm shelter, or baked beans on a camping trip. But behind this everyday convenience is a surprisingly dark and dangerous story. Believe it or not, did canned food once nearly poison the world? Literally. Let's rewind to where it all began. Join us today, right here on History of Food. The story of canned food starts in the late 18th and early 19th century. Back then, armies and sailors were dropping like flies. Not from battles, but from spoiled food and scurvy. Napoleon Bonaparte, the French emperor who had a knack for both conquering countries and setting fashion trends with funny hats, realized his soldiers needed better food preservation. So in 1795, he offered a hefty prize to anyone who could invent a way to safely store food for long periods. Enter Nicolas Appert, a French confectioner with more curiosity than scientific training. In 1809, Appert figured out that if you put food in a glass jar, sealed it, and then boiled it, the food could last for months, even years. This was revolutionary. For the first time in history, people could store meat, vegetables, and soups without them rotting in a matter of days. But glass jars weren't exactly soldier-friendly. They broke easily, were heavy, and clunky to transport. So the British quickly adapted the method using tin-plated iron cans. These cans were tougher, lighter, and much more practical. The first commercial canning factory opened in London in 1813, and canned food was officially on the market. It seemed like the future had arrived. Here's the problem. Early cans were a disaster. Not only were they sealed with toxic lead solder that could cause brain damage, seizures, and even death, but they were also nearly impossible to open, since the can opener wasn't invented until decades later, leaving people to hack at them with knives, hammers, bayonets, or even bash them against rocks just to get to dinner. But the most dangerous flaw wasn't the lead or the crude opening methods. It was botulism, caused by the bacterium Clostridium botulinum, which thrives in oxygen-free environments like a sealed can. If the process wasn't perfect, deadly toxins could grow inside, and the scary part was that food looked fine until hours later, when paralysis set in, often fatal without modern medicine. If you want a chilling example of how dangerous early canned food could be, look no further than the Franklin expedition of 1845. Sir John Franklin led two ships, the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, to explore the Arctic. They were stocked with around 8,000 pounds of canned food, a seemingly brilliant solution for a years-long voyage. When the ships became trapped in ice, disaster struck. The men started dying in droves. Later investigations revealed many cans were poorly sealed, contaminated, and filled with lead. Skeletons of the crew showed horrifying levels of lead poisoning, which would have caused confusion, hallucinations, and weakness. Imagine being trapped in the Arctic, slowly poisoned by the very food meant to keep you alive. It wasn't just Arctic explorers who were at risk. Throughout the 19th century, everyday consumers faced similar dangers. People would buy canned goods from local shops, only to get sick or die after eating them. Newspapers occasionally reported mysterious deaths linked to canned meats or vegetables. Doctors didn't always understand the cause, but we now know botulism was the silent culprit. At this point, Canned food had become a gamble. You might get a hearty meal, or you might get your last supper. Thankfully, by the late 1800s and early 1900s, science finally caught up with the problem. Louis Pasteur's discoveries in microbiology helped people understand germs and the importance of sterilization. By then, manufacturers began improving their techniques, boiling cans longer and at higher temperatures to kill bacteria. By the early 20th century, lead solder was replaced with safer seals. Cans became lighter and safer. And Ezra Warner's 1858 can opener finally spared people from stabbing tins with bayonets. By mid-century, canned food was everywhere, essential in 2 world wars, embraced by supermarkets and beloved by homemakers, with the days of lethal canned peas thankfully behind us. What's funny is that canned food went from being dangerously experimental to almost boringly safe. Today, we rarely think about it. We just toss cans into our shopping carts without a second thought. But imagine trying to explain canned ravioli to someone in the 1700s. You'd basically be saying, we take fresh pasta, stuff it in a metal cylinder, cook it until bacteria die, and then eat it months later. Oh, and it still tastes like pasta. What this history shows is that food preservation is one of humanity's greatest achievements. Making pineapples in winter, beef stew in space, and rations in storms possible. But progress came with danger, as early adopters of canned food unknowingly risked botulism and lead poisoning, trusting that shiny tins were safe when sometimes, tragically, they weren't. It's a reminder to appreciate the science behind the ordinary. Every safe can on a shelf is the product of centuries of trial, error, tragedy, and innovation. From soldiers hacking cans with swords to explorers poisoned in the Arctic, those lessons paved the way for the convenience we take for granted today, as canned food went from nearly poisoning the world to becoming both hero and survivor of our kitchens. And that's the strange journey of the can, from deadly invention to everyday lifesaver. It's a reminder that even our most ordinary foods carry extraordinary stories. Who knows? The next item in your pantry might just have a history wild enough to fill another chapter in the history of food. Thank you for watching.